Shalom Aleichem. How are you all? Welcome to Eretz Israel, Erev Shabbat, parshat Ki Tisa. We are working towards Pesach, Baruch Hashem, and the world is pushing on towards a new redemption. You know, the Holy Zohar, the book of Jewish mysticism, teaches us that the world, history itself, is broken into three 2,000-year periods. The first 2,000 years is called the period of chaos. The second 2,000 years is called the period of Torah. And the third 2,000 years is called the period of redemption. And that all of that, those 6,000 years, lead up to what we call the 1,000 years of peace, the 1,000-year Shabbos, where humanity has reached its complete maturity. Well, you see where we're holding at 5,781 years, we're getting closer, folks. It's not so far off on the horizon after all these thousands of years. The first 2,000 years of chaos, that was the period when humanity was like in its childhood. Humanity was wild. Humanity was still learning about survival in the simplest terms. Humanity was forming basic social structures like the family, like a town, like a community. And all in those 2,000 years, there was no direct document to tell the human race exactly what they should do and how they should do it, but there were traditions from Adam forward. Those first 2,000 years contain what we call the 7 laws of Noah. Those 7 laws are the basic precepts that are designed to guide a society. But they weren't the precepts that would bring that society to its redemptive potential. Okay, so for that we needed something else. And that's the second 2,000 years, the years when Avraham Avinu was born and reached his maturity. And those 2,000 years, and they ended around the time that Moses received the Torah. So what is the idea of Torah? That the first 2,000 years is chaos. And then God, the second 2,000 years of Torah is where we apply structure to the chaos to create order. We take all the materials of reality and we create beautiful things, right? You can live in a tree if you want. You know, it gets a little rough in the wintertime. But if you have enough wisdom and discipline, you can take some trees and make a beautiful home. And then that's the idea of Torah, but on a metaphysical level, we're taking the laws of the Torah and applying them to nature and applying them to human behavior in order to create what we can actually use and work towards fruition, work towards our potential. So in that 2,000 years, you'll notice that there was all kinds of other legal systems were established in other cultures and other societies, not just in the Jewish one. You know, you have the Code of Hammurabi, you have the Sumerians, you have all kinds of ancient cultures that attempted to bring about a grander expression of human understanding and wisdom in society. The third 2,000 years, the 2,000 years of redemption, the Zohar says, well, what is a redemption? A redemption is when you free something from its bondage. A redemption is when you take something out of its place of captivity and you bring it into freedom. Now, if you look all around this huge planet, this great race, everybody's always talking about freedom. And everybody's yelling about freedom. And some people are dying for freedom. And some people are writing songs and poetry for freedom. But the freedom is the essential state of man before he is subdued by external forces. So the third 2,000-year period is where we take the chaos, we've added order to it, and now the order creates something new. The order of Torah creates the extraction of the holiness that was in the original chaos. You follow? That the original chaos had immense power and potential. Those first 2,000 years of human existence. You know, when you had all the tribes that were wandering around and you had the flood of Noah and you had the generation that led up to the generation of the building of the Tower of Babel, and of course that ended with the dispersion of the nations because God confused their language because they were waging war with, well, their creator and the idea of responsibility towards their own behavior. They didn't want to take responsibility for their behavior. They wanted to build a tower so that if there's another flood, they could climb to the top and continue to wage war with God, meaning wage war with natural moral law. They don't want natural moral law. They want the law the way Nimrod wants the law to be. The king Nimrod was a warrior. He was a sorcerer. He knew a lot of stuff. But what he didn't know was that you cannot serve two masters. And he wanted to be the master. Okay, so then we take that idea of chaos and order, and then we apply it and exert and extract the power of redemption out of those first two levels, and that creates the third 2,000 year period. So that's why you see in the last 2,000 years we have tremendous flourishing of science, mathematics, geography, geology, all the different sciences that have been created to understand that all those sciences are designed for one thing: to extract wisdom, to make life better, to make human beings have more time, more leisure, more pleasure, and more ability to contemplate their own relationship to the world, and of course, hopefully, to discover that there's some unbelievable, infinite, eternal wisdom behind this entire structure. So that third period that we find ourselves in now, we're already in 1,782 years of that cycle of redemption. And that's why you see so much wisdom and so much technology and science happening in the last 200 years, because it's peaking and it accelerates the speed. Now you ask ourselves a question: why do we assert, why does the Zohar assert these patterns of time as being given to us or imposed upon reality? Because a lot of people say, no, the world was always forever. Leave me alone with God. Leave God in church. Leave God in the temple. But don't bring God into the laboratory. And the Zohar says, no. God is first off, he's in the laboratory, because you would have nothing to work with if you didn't have the structure and the order to look at and to learn from. So why does God leave this 2,000 year footprint of chaos, another 2,000 year footprint of Torah or applying moral law to human society? And then this third 2,000 years is this redemptive process, because the cycle, the pattern, is that which helps us recognize that there's something behind what we see. See, because if you're an infinite, eternal God, you have a hard time revealing yourself without obliterating all free choice. The rabbis ask, well, if God wants us to keep the Torah, why doesn't he reveal the reward you get for every good deed you do? Wouldn't that be nice? God just showed we did a good deed, we got the reward right on the spot. And you know what the answer the rabbis give? Very interesting. They say, if God gave us the reward for every good deed right away, everybody would run and do good deeds. Now, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Well, that would be like everybody running to the Father and doing what their Father wants because they know they're going to get paid. And the Father says, no, I love you anyways. I want you to do this because it's good for you. I want you to do this without reward, because then you'll appreciate it more. And so God delays the reward of this world till the final Shabbos, the Shabbos that's 1,000 years, the Shabbos where spirituality and physicality have become one symbiotic entity, and there's no longer a distinction between the laboratory and the synagogue. And there's no longer a distinction between good and evil, because there is no more evil. And our minds will no longer see the world as you and me and us and them, but we'll see it's all us. And so that ideal state that we are really working towards, that's the purpose of creation. To reveal that in the place that's farthest from God is still very close. And the place that a person thinks he's very close to God, well, you might be farther than you think, because we're part of something so grand, we have to be humble to perceive it and to see that footprint of the patterns of time. And if we look for it, we'll see it. It's in Shabbat, the 7-day week, the 7-day sabbatical, 7-year sabbatical, the 7 year cycles, which is called the Jubilee, where the all slaves go back to freedom, and all land reverts to its previous owners. See, the Torah has all these cycles. The 30 days of the month, right? The 30 days of the morning cycle. All these cycles are God showing us that he is behind the scene without doing it in a heavy-handed way. He wants to do it in a light touch that we'll discover it, and then we'll get the aha. We'll get that aha experience of the discovery of the presence in the patterns. And if it wasn't that way, then it would be overwhelming, and we might all be good people, but we might be good robots too. And everybody's just running after the reward. And that's not the goal. The goal is that we recognize the Creator and serve him because of this amazing creation that he's given us, and the wisdom that's embedded in it. And if we were always running for rewards, we wouldn't actually exercise our minds to become who we really are, which are beings created in his image. If I'm always going after the prize, I won't contemplate the game, right? All I want is the trophy at the end of the game. I haven't learned to play the game. I haven't learned the wisdom that is here in this creation that is waiting for us to discover. And so the Kabbalah points out some of these things to us with all the different patterns of numbers, of shapes, of structures. And the more we learn Zohar, the more we see it's emerging all the time. And, we're getting closer to the end, as we said. And when we come to that final Shabbat, it's not that there's going to be a war and everybody's going to be destroyed, like some people think. There's not going to be the Armageddon. It's not going to be a state where there's nobody left and we're just walking around in this nuclear wasteland. That's Hollywood. What's going to be is everybody's going to see who they really are. The shrouds, the curtains of our own physicality will be clarified, and we will be able to see our own souls. We'll be able to see everybody else's soul, and we'll really know who the righteous are and who the fakers are, and we'll know who the good doctors are and the good politicians and the good scientists, and everybody's real true self will be revealed. And that's already the ultimate redemption, because we see the good as it is, and we'll be able to judge, and we'll be able to say and see ourselves and be able to say, wow, I did that in my life. That's pretty good. The rabbis say like this, that when the righteous die and they look back on their evil, they think it's like looking at the removal of a fleck of hair from a cup of milk. Like you pour a cup of milk and there's a little hair in there. You just fleck it out and you see that it's pure. And they'll look back at their lives and they'll see that they climbed a huge mountain and they didn't even know it. The evil people, the people that did not go after the truth, the real truth, the spiritual truth of one creator with one law and one will, they're going to look at their lives, they're going to see that they were torn like a thorn through a clump of wool. If you ever take a thorn and try to drag it through wool, it's going to tear everything apart. That's what it's like when their souls emerge from the evil that they've done. And they'll see that all their efforts were like a tiny step up that mountain, whereas the righteous will see that they climb the whole mountain. So, I just figured a long time ago, which team do I want to be on? Who do I want to serve? Because I see everybody serving somebody. So let's serve the real thing and then get the real reward at the end. And in the meantime, learn how to discover the joy and the wonder that is here now, in this moment, in this day, and in this holy Shabbat. So God bless you all with that curiosity to ask the question, because, the young man, he never stops asking questions. And the only way we get old is when we stop asking questions. If I think I know it all, I'm a very old person. And if I'm still asking questions, then I'm really very young. So God bless you all with that power of curiosity to always drive you deeper into reality, because you're going to find wonderful diamonds of your own self within reality. And that's what we're trying to work here, doing, revealing in the divine self that we carry within us and we don't even know it's there. We're trying to reveal that in every person, because that brings the ultimate redemption, that brings the 1,000 years of peace, and that brings God to ultimate satisfaction that he created us in the first place, because we will have proven that he was right and right on and righteous all along. God bless you all. Shabbat Shalom.